on a busy news day, obviously, here. You've got many primaries happening, and then you've got, obviously, the Supreme Court handing down their decisions here today. Started at 10 a.m. every 10 minutes. We will get some. There are several to be ruled on. Obviously, many eyes there on Dobbs v. Jackson. Your thoughts, listening to Joe and Victoria with their background, their expertise on it. Obviously, I know that you speak to your constituents. What are you looking for with the Supreme Court opinions? Not only that, but also how protesters are reacting, both for and against.
Well, look, on the Dobbs v. Jackson case, that's the one people are following most closely in my district. And frankly, people are nervous that the court would somehow get more moderated in their final opinion than what was leaked. You know, people are frustrated that there were leaks. They're very frustrated that the Attorney General has chosen yet again to be very selective of his enforcement of federal law. And that's kind of become a hallmark of the Biden administration, is selectively obeying the law and selectively enforcing the law. And it's essentially justice only for those who agree with the Biden administration. So we hope that this is a real end to Roe v. Wade. I think people in the 8th District of Ohio are very hopeful of that. It's a very pro-life district and therefore a very pro-science view of life. And I don't think you can defend freedom without defending life. So that's the big thing. And then, frankly, another extension of the right to life is the ability to defend yourself. And people are following that carry permit standard in case in New York City, because it gets to the fundamental nature of the Second Amendment. It's an individual right to keep and bear arms that is protected by the Second Amendment.
Yeah, New York State there, and also the praying coach. Many are wondering about that, religious freedoms. So those three. I want to move to the economy for a second, if I can, with you, Congressman. President Biden, as you know, spending another weekend in Rehoboth Beach, Delaware. He was on the beach. Some reporters found him. He was asked about the state of the economy. Here's his answer.
They're saying the recession's even more likely than ever.
Not the majority of them aren't saying that. Come on, don't make things up, okay? Now you sound like a Republican politician. I'm joking. That was a joke. That was a joke. But all kidding aside, no, I don't think it is. I was talking to Larry Summers this morning, and there's nothing inevitable about a recession.
Mixed answers on that, but you're a Republican politician. Do you have any thoughts on that and the response from the President of the United States on the economy and recession, sir?
Well, what I recall about Joe Biden is he promised an end to fossil fuels. He pushed the Green New Deal. He said that the Build Back Better plan, which would have put $5 trillion more into our economy, was going to somehow make inflation better. Can you imagine how overheated our economy would be if they dumped another $5 trillion worth of fuel on this fire? And all the policies that he's pushing are making things worse, certainly for inflation and frankly, for the lives of everyday Americans and the people of Ohio. High fuel prices are a feature of the plan for him. And the only good news I took from that is he was talking to Larry Summers. Because Larry Summers, even though he's a Democrat, he was accurate about this. He called out the Democrats and the administration saying, hey, you're going to cause inflation. They called it the American Rescue Plan. I think we now know it was really the American Inflation Plan.
In Ohio, I want to talk about gas prices if I can. One of the major sticking points that affects just about every American. Right now, it's sitting at $4.97. That is the national average of an average gallon of gasoline. There it is for AAA. I believe in your state, it's about a penny lower, give or take. Your thoughts on this as President Biden says a decision on a gas tax holiday could be made this week. That would save drivers, I think, roughly 18 cents a gallon here. You may remember President or then candidate Obama calling this gas tax holiday a gimmick. Nevertheless, is 18 cents, even if he does go through with that, I mean, how much of an impact is that really going to have?
Well, it'll certainly have an impact. People will feel it. People are burning through cash. Any money that they were able to save over the past couple years is burning fast with the soaring costs of fuel and groceries and healthcare and education, everything else, you name it, it's going up. And, it was about $116 the last time I filled up my pickup truck. And that's, people in this side of the state, trucks, SUVs, and minivans, that are suited to the needs and nature of the district. Moms going to fill up the pump, they're in shock. Household budgets are in shambles. And we're just trying to make sure that we change course. And look, we know the recipe. Like so many things, Joe Biden simply has to put things back the way he found them, and they will work better. For the most part, he could have taken office and done nothing, and the country would be in better shape.
So you're for the gas tax holiday implemented by the president if that goes through. Is that correct or no?
Well, I think it would help. I do think it's a bit of a gimmick, but I think it's less foolish than burning through the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. They don't have a plan to replenish that. Yeah. It's called a Strategic Petroleum Reserve for a reason, and we're in the midst of horrible foreign policy. I mean, Joe Biden has been a very weak president. It's invited aggression. He's bumbled through the relations with Ukraine. Nothing excuses what Vladimir Putin's doing. But I'm concerned they're trying to have a new strategic vision for NATO, which projects power. NATO's a defensive alliance, and I'm really concerned that they're going to foolishly stumble into a broader conflict when they should be focused on containing it. So I've been very concerned about the Biden administration's use of the Strategic Petroleum Reserve as a way to say, hey, we're doing something about fuel prices. Yeah. I get there's a lot of pressure to do it about it. What he doesn't want to do is undo his bad policies, and that'd make a much bigger difference than the 18 cents.
All right, we'll leave it right there. Ohio Congressman Warren Davidson joining us live here on National Report. Congressman, thank you.
Hey, I'm Rob Finnerty. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please join the conversation in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, too. Hit the bell icon to be alerted to breaking news. And remember, there's a whole lot more on Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news network. Newsmax TV, where real news for real people.